Welcome to the Lay Low Pod, the podcast that keeps it real while you figure things out. I'm Erin, and let's lay low. If you're in a season of becoming where life doesn't look how it used to, but not quite how it will, you're in the right place. Sometimes to grow, you have to lay low. Hey everybody, it's Erin. Thank you for coming to Lay Low with me. I'm going to start this episode off by thanking so many of you who reached out to me this last week. Since the last episode, so many people connected, but especially a lot of guys who reached out to tell me how much they were enjoying the podcast and how much it's been making them think. And I think that compliment alone just made me just feel like, okay, Erin, you're on the right path here, because I think that we as women might be more open-minded to taking care of ourselves emotionally, mentally, feeling that nurturing part of being a woman possibly, where that's not more natural for us. But I know so many men who need to have community and support as they evolve and change, and it's just not talked about as much. It's one of those things, oh, guys don't do that. And I've even heard, my boys say some of those things, and I try to correct them. And oh my goodness, your future wife will be so grateful if you read this book about the 4 agreements, or, just any work that you're doing on yourself right now, that you are going inward to get to know yourself better and who you want to be and your goals and what life looks like for you. I think that future wife will just love that. So that's what I tell my boys. But it's not that common for men to, well, I guess maybe in my life, for men to really put a lot of effort into this. And so just alone that you're here and you're open-minded to hearing me each week, thank you, thank you. I promise you are in the right space, and you're going to be around a lot of people who get you. And this is just starting where I feel just kind of like a snowball rolling, where you don't know where this ball's going, but it's gonna grow naturally with the right people. And I'm so glad that you are one of those people. I want to start this one off today talking about what I've been watching and reading. I want to kind of start it off with something fun. This has actually been a really heavy episode for me this week. So I am starting it off talking by this just so I can kind of relax a little. I think I have my glass of wine right here with me, but watching and reading. So watching right now, I watched a really awesome documentary on Netflix that is called The Crash. And it's a super short little 90-minute episode that talks about a car accident for some high schoolers who just graduated, and it's kind of has an interesting perspective. I thought it was pretty unique. If you are a parent, especially, I think you would find it interesting. But I enjoyed that this weekend. I catch up on my shows on the weekend. I have found during the week, if I have something on, it's completely mindless, but I feel like after work, I am wanting to kind of be more relaxed until it's dark and I'm ready to get in bed. But I haven't been watching as much TV as I have in the past. I've always been a TV watcher, but I loved The Crash. Also, what was the other one? Euphoria. If you have not watched Euphoria, okay, well, wait a minute. I might have to edit this part out, because do you know when you're a little kid and you are told not to do something or not to watch something and it makes you want to watch it? Or when people are like, oh, you can't do that, so that makes you want to do that. Is that me? Because that is my life wrapped up in a nutshell. My parents would completely agree. But that's what Euphoria is to me. It is just that thing that you shouldn't watch because it's really bad, but it's so entertaining. And the character development on that show is something so cool, and that's really interesting to me. But that is one that when the episode ends, my jaw, this season especially, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, but take it as you will. I'm telling my kids right now, don't watch Euphoria. Okay, don't do as I say, not as I do. Sometimes I remember telling Colt when, oh my gosh, he'll laugh at this, during the separation. And I was like, when you're 35, or no, I think I was 34. So I must have been before the separation, but I was like, when you're 34, you can do whatever you want. It was kind of that end of my marriage where I was just defiant and Oh my gosh. It's like I would be really good about making my own rules, not my parents' rules, not my religion's rules, but like I'd make my own rules and I would kind of negotiate with myself. And they weren't always the best rules, but I would follow them if they were my rules. And so they were kind of gray area a little bit. So me telling my kids do as I say, not as I do. That's just it. Their mom's has always been a little wild child. So the book that I have been reading is actually going to be connecting with our topic today, which is about forgiveness. And it's really about forgiving others and what that can look like, and also forgiving yourself in the process. And that's the part of this that I struggle the most with. So we're going to get into all of that. But the book I've been reading is called Strangers, a Memoir of Marriage by Belle Burden. And I heard about it first on a podcast. And then my sister and I both love memoirs. And so she asked if I had watched or listened or read it yet. And I said I was just finishing. I think I was on the last couple chapters. And that author had just been on the Oprah podcast, which means everybody's going to be talking about this book. It's called Strangers. And it's about a woman who had been married a long time, and her husband ended up wanting to have another life. And so it's her perspective of the process. And it was really interesting because I think that I connected with this book differently. I actually didn't. My friend the other day, I was telling her about it and she said it was on her listen list. And I'm like, I wouldn't even listen to it. Like, it's not that there's so many other great memoirs. It really is just her experience going through a change that she didn't choose. And I think we can all relate to that part. We've all had things that deeply have affected us from your childhood, from your family, from relationships, things that you did not choose that deeply affected you. That was just this woman's perspective, and we've all been there. But it was interesting because I was thinking of the husband during this reading this book, because I kept thinking, man, I've been that person that was just like, I have to go. Like I've tried and done everything, and in my head, just knowing like I have to go, and having that decision be mine. I've been on that side where I know I am breaking a heart, and I know that even though I know it's what's for the best, it's still really hard. So I read this book kind of thinking about both sides, the husband and the wife. I have been the one that's hurt others, and I have been the one that has been really hurt by others. I've been the one who was left behind, and I've been the one who's left. And that is with relationships, friendships, family memberships. I felt it all in different situations. So I felt like I could connect to both characters of this book. But this episode goes along with our first listener question that we got in the email. It is, how do you let go of resentment towards someone when you know they've deeply hurt you or someone you love? And when I read that question, I knew I wanted to talk about forgiveness and how those different ways can look. And I knew I wanted to talk about my last relationship that ended with my ex-fiancé. We were together for 5 years. So I want to share that story really just so I can make peace with it and put it behind me. I just feel like right now in my life, I'm trying to make peace with as many parts of myself that I want to leave behind and grow from. And so I'm using this season right now to do that. And this episode is an important part of my processing. So I'm glad you're here and I can get it all out once and we can be done. But, forgiveness does not have to mean reconciliation or access or having anything to do with them. Forgiveness can look a lot of different ways. And that's what I want to talk about today. And some of the things that I'm going to share really, I'm going to be honest, and hopefully, I told my son the other day, said, Mom, you're really brave to sit on that podcast and just like tell all these things that you've done wrong or mistakes or bad times in your life. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I have to be brave right now, but that's why I grew. Like, I am this person that I am now because of all that stuff. And if we don't talk about what we went through, you're just going to feel like you're the only one there and nobody understands. And I want people to know that I've been there. I've made really bad decisions that I'm not proud of, and I have done everything in my power to own it and to learn from it and to really just keep it as a stepping stone towards a better version of myself. But I very much have always forgiven other people probably too easily. My mom, when I was little, my mom told me that I remember her getting mad at me because I have had some sort of girl conflict at school, and then I'd come home and tell her about it, and then the next day I forgave him and just moved on, and my mom would get so upset about it. She's just like, "You can't just do that. You can't forgive people like that." And my sister as well, I know that if you ask her, like, one of my things that she loves most about me, it's that she will always say that I will forgive and forget, and that's just something I've always been that way. I have a really hard time forgiving myself and letting things really go for me, and so that is the part of this podcast that is so really healing for me, is I can reframe experiences that I went through in a way that is just a learning experience. And then that takes some of that pain out for me, some of that sadness, where I can just really see what it is, take the lessons, and move forward. But I've always been able to forgive other people and not necessarily myself. But when I said earlier that I would make my own rules, that I didn't like following my parents' rules or my church's rules, but I would make my own little gray area rules and I'd follow those. So this started when I was in high school because I was really the only Mormon. I think my brother and there were really no Mormons in the schools. And I remember that I just got so tired of telling people that I didn't drink. And I was just like, gosh, like, why do I just tell people that? Like, I'm so sick of it. Like, why do I have to be the only one who doesn't drink? And it just got so boring to me and so old. And I would try to understand like my parents' side and the law side, really. I mean, if you're underage. But I just was just like, nobody like gets how boring this is for me to have to say no. And so I would make my own rules. Like I could have a beer, but I couldn't drink anything else. Or with boys, I was the only Mormon, and I set my own rules of like what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I mean, when I got married, I was a virgin, which I mean, I barely got across the finish line, but I did. And that to me, I was like, took that really seriously as a kid. And so I would have guys that liked me and would take me out or whatever. But as soon as they figured out like I wasn't going to be putting out, like they would honestly just move on to usually one of my friends or somebody else in the circle. And that's just the cycle that I was in high school. But I would make these rules and I was like, no, that's my rule. And I'm not going to break it because I set it myself. And even like the last 6 months of my marriage, probably, I was just, oh my gosh, emotional chaos. I wasn't sleeping. I was actually waking up with like panic attacks where I couldn't breathe, and we had to do a whole sleep study. And I just was like clawing my chest in the night. Like, my body actually reacted to the Mormon garments that I was supposed to be wearing, and I was covered in rashes. Like, I was like in it at the end. And I just would lean on anybody who I felt like could understand me. And so my friends were so important to me at that time. And at the end there, like, there was some gray area where I'd make myself rules of, like, I could do this, but not that, and I was not a very great wife at the end of my marriage, and that's something that I have had to make, apologies for and to own that because that's, not who I wanna be, and, um, these rules that I've made have really just been my own way of almost like trying to make some sort of something that I want in a situation that I'm not supposed to have. Again, going back to that euphoria, like I shouldn't watch it, but I want to watch it. But I've always, even when I've made the mistakes, like I've always been able to take accountability. That's never been an issue for me. I have no problem admitting that I am wrong, that I messed up. Like that's just not something I struggle with. And so I would go into these adult situations where I expect I just didn't even expect it. I just thought people would forgive me the way I would forgive them. And I just kept, because I remember after my divorce, telling one of my friends, like, if you really wanted to date when you were in love with my ex-husband, then that's okay. Like, I remember telling her and meaning it. Like, if you guys are in love, like, you guys go be together. I get it. Like, it's okay. I told people that and I meant it so much. And then you would think, oh, somebody else would feel the same way, but they don't, right? So I've always been in these situations with adults where I would forgive them, but then I wasn't forgiven, or my behavior made it where I thought I was justified in some way, and learning that that doesn't how it works with somebody else. So I've kind of just had to understand that adult friendships and relationships come with forgiveness, and it is up to you to decide how you want to give it and how you want to receive it. And they can look different, and it can be confusing, and you could feel like, oh, I need to make this apology to them to have peace. That's typically how I am. I usually need to get it off my chest and write it or tell it. Or there's other people who can just forgive without having a conversation, and that works for them. Or there's some people who can forgive quickly, like me, who that's I don't I've had to learn that is not always good. Some people need to earn it a little more, right? But I've had somebody take, a long time to forgive me. And I actually had just last fall, I had an old friend email me, and the first line of the email was, um, Erin, I have hated you for too long. And then the last line of the email said, I forgive you. And, looking back, it's interesting to see, like, I read this and I thought, oh my gosh, I feel so bad that she's hated me so long. Like, I do not like hating people. Like, I just kind of like forgive and forget, because I don't want to hate anybody for 10 years. And then I also thought, I hope she knows that, like, I've always sent my love to her, my good energy to her. I've always wanted the best for her, and I've loved her from afar, truly. And so hearing that from her, it just made me so happy that I knew that was off of her chest, that meant something really important for her, and that made me happy. But that doesn't mean that we need to be best friends, to be, friends, to really have any contact. We had some exchanges and even talked about meeting up in person, but it just kind of fizzled out, which is just fine. And it's just interesting. It took 10 years for that. And I'm so glad. It's never too late to forgive. It's never too late to accept an apology. And really, it's so that you can just release it. When I think about hating somebody or being mad at somebody or angry, I don't want that energy in my body and my mind and my heart, my soul, my world. Like, I just want to deal with it and get it out as soon as I can. And I feel like if I didn't forgive, then I would just be holding on to that. But I'm very good at forgiving and then still never having a relationship with you again or having access to me, because I believe that, again, with energy, if you're taking my good energy again and again and again and taking it so freely, and then I'm disrespected, that means, yeah, I can forgive you, but I also don't want you to have any of my energy. And I'm okay with that. That's kind of how I move on so easily, is just knowing, like, that door's shut. That's just how it is in my world. But I want to get into this last relationship. So we were together. So last podcast we stopped, I was just moving in Salt Lake City into the townhome. So he helped me move in. We had just been dating, nothing too serious. I remember on our first date, I told him the most complicated thing about me is I'm in the city for a week and then I'm in the country for a week, city in the week, country in a week. And he was like, "Oh, easy peasy, that's fine." And so yeah, so when I was in the city, we'd date. There were times he came down to the country even to take me out during country time. Um, but eventually he helped me move in, and then he pretty much just stayed, and a few months later got rid of his place. I actually never saw his apartment, which is, I mean, I don't think I've told anybody that, but I never saw his apartment. I know he was, like, renting a room somewhere, kinda, but, I never saw it. It was always my house, my place. Always took my car. I really just had this like partner that I think I was always more invested in it than he was. But I felt a lot of security from this dating situation because, which is why I know I let him move in quickly because I was this mom. Think about it. I was a mom and I finally got what I wanted and I moved to the city. But guess what? My kids didn't want to come. So now I only get to see them 2 of every 14 days. So the other 12 days of the week, the month, I still am a mom. I still want to take care of somebody. I still want to do the laundry and make dinner and well, cut that. Didn't make dinner ever. He actually would hold that over my head that I only cooked when my kids came around. And I was like, yeah, still now, like, I don't cook. I'm like, I was a Mormon housewife for 15 years and I made enough dinner and I'm done. And I'm done. But, you know, if I love Sunday dinner, my boys know that there's always a standing invitation. We'll always do a Sunday dinner. Just give me 24 hours notice and I'll have dinner already. But I was definitely not cooking. But, you know, I was keeping up the house. I was grocery shopping. I was nurturing. I was still a mom. And I know that my ex, and his adorable golden doodle were the recipient of me being a mom all the time and me being just me. And I was so happy to do it. I remember at the beginning being just like happy to take care of somebody and somebody needs me and is grateful for me. And that's how the relationship really did start. I made life really easy for him for a long time. Um, and early on, there were definitely red flags, but you know what? Everybody can say that looking back. And I've had to forgive myself about this too, because everybody can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was weird. That was weird. That was weird. That was weird. But adding it all back after knowing about years of chronic lying, you're like, oh, that wasn't just weird. That was a big, shit show. So I learned in therapy that there is light and shadow to every person. And if you love the light of somebody, you have to accept the shadow. And I really felt that in this relationship because there were a lot of things I really did love. I loved that it was really the first person that I could be myself with and who just like let me be me and never gave me any hassle about any of that other than he thought that I sneezed way too loud. Like it really annoyed him that I sneezed so loud. But other than that, like I could just be myself and he loved me. And that was really the first relationship that's happened. And so that was a good thing. Um, but also, it was very surface level relationship. We did not talk about anything really deep. We just didn't. And that was just he didn't have any of that to offer. He was not interested in therapy. He was not interested in self-help, any kind of thing that we could do together to strengthen our relationship. It was really just kind of cold in that way. It was just like, this is what you get. And that's just so not who I am. But I loved being myself that I accepted that shadow. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to like go so deep with somebody where I can talk about everything and just have no secrets and just be like, look at him and tell you everything. And I know that you can do the same and there's no bad things to say. And that's what I really want next time. So there were things like that that I just wasn't getting in the relationship. Another light and shadow, he was really easygoing and just go with the flow kind of guy. But then the shadow of that was he was just really messy and inconsiderate of space, like slob. And to me, that's just so disrespectful. And I mean, everybody's a little messy, but not to that extent. But that's fine if somebody else would like to live with a slob. I'm not going to. The third one that I always think about is he connected so well with my boys. He was really such a great dynamic the four of us had. It was just kind of like carefree and youthful, and we just did what we wanted. And it was just kind of like we just had a lot of fun together. And that was the light, and I think that he helped me bond really well with my boys, even though after the breakup, I feel closer to my boys than ever. But the shadow of being so good with my boys was he really was childlike himself when it came to adult responsibilities were very difficult for him, like keeping your car registered, keeping car insurance. I'm gonna stop there, but that was the shadow, and, that got really old. I am just not interested in having a 3rd child that I'm gonna live with for all the rest of my life. Like, I know now that, like, I have worked really hard to get my life together, and I need somebody who is kind of at that same place as well. But that was I kind of overlooked a lot of things because I really was just in love. But about a year into our relationship, I found out that he was cheating on me. Somebody found me on Instagram and told me the whole story and all the lies. And he had basically told her a ton of lies that didn't add up at all, and but still went and slept with her. And she sent me all the screenshots and everything, and I was just so shocked. I was so, so, so shocked, and he just begged, just begged for me to forgive him, that he didn't, telling me that he didn't know that he was ready to settle down, but now he knows he doesn't wanna lose me, saying all the things that I really did believe that he loved me and he was really wanting our life together, everything I believed him. And, we set some boundaries and I told him, I can forgive and I can forget this, but if it ever happens again, there will be no conversation. There will be no tears. It will be a, okay, did that happen? Okay, this is the result that I'm not going to be in a relationship where I'm gonna go through that. So fast forward and we're together. We end up getting into business together, which will be another episode as well. I want to tell the whole story about how I have built this company organically. So here we are living together. We're engaged. We're planning our marriage. We are about to send the dates, which is interesting. I wasn't going to say this, but the save the dates. We had just gotten the save the dates for the wedding in the mail, and I had been at therapy with Heather the week before, and these save the dates, I was just starting to have this was about a couple weeks before the breakup, but I was having just a lot of thoughts in my head and second thoughts. So we just were very much intertwined, and I had concerns majorly when it came to money, when it came to business, when it came to how this is really going to go. I saw a lot of the way his dad treated his mom, that we would leave their house and go in the car, and more times than not we would talk about how I will not be talked to like that, and if he talks to me that way then I'm out, because it was really sad and disrespectful. And so I had concerns as I saw some of that behavior repeating, with anger outbursts and some situations that just did not feel good. And I was talking to my therapist about all of this for about a month before the breakup. And I had these save the dates. Is this just me trying to freak myself out? Is this me self sabotaging, or is this my gut? Like, I was genuinely confused. And she said, send these out and we will be able, doesn't mean that you have to marry him. Like, let's send them out and then we still have time. And if we need to get out of this, we will. We can get out of it until the very last day. And I was really telling her everything. And um so when I woke up one morning and I got another Instagram message with another screenshots, and this time it was just for years and it was extremely intense and was a double life situation. And so it was a very easy decision for me to say exactly what I said, my boundary that I had set. And you guys, if you're going to set a boundary, you got to follow through. If you make a promise to yourself, you have to be true to yourself and honor it. And if you say, I'm not going to do this or this, hold yourself accountable. But asked him, he admitted it, everything, and I said, "Okay, pack your stuff." And, that conversation, there was not one tear, and it was because I knew that, um, I gave him a chance, and, he made his decisions, and that was just a boundary that I needed to respect myself. So, looking back, I feel very grateful it all happened how it did, and, that was definitely the universe's way of telling me, well, let me tell you this story. I feel, you guys, I'm sorry, this is gonna be a little longer, but the really days before the breakup, I was in a situation, and this is the shortened version, but I was in a moment with the universe when I was manifesting, and I just said, like, I'm so happy. I, um, I had just had one of those days moments, and I was just so grateful. And I was like, I feel so good right now. I want more of this feeling. And if there's anything in my life holding me back for feeling this feeling, then please release it so I can just keep growing and elevating and keep getting happier and happier and happier. And a couple days later, he was out of the house. And that was for sure the universe's way of telling me, girl, we got you. We have better plans for you. There's somebody perfect for you. When I think back about when we first started dating, I was just such a different version of myself. So I was happy with that kind of relationship, but then I'm so proud of myself as I evolved and changed that I honored that in myself, knowing, okay, if I'm going to make this commitment, if I would have married him, I would have married, I mean, I'm a very, very loyal girl, and he probably would have gotten away with who even knows how much. So I'm so glad that that is not my story. But I think I really learned that there are people that are going to come into your life for a season, for a little while, for a long time. My mom taught me that as a young girl. She said, not every friend that you have, you're going to have forever. She taught me that at a very young age, and it goes with people in general. And now I try to kind of hold on to people loosely because still need to let there be a little room for growth in there. Both of my relationships have technically ended because I just was growing and I left them behind. And that's probably just how it is. And the next person, I just need to grow with me or to just own it and understand that about me and love it for me. But it's funny that what I kind of want to end with is so before I met my ex, I had this list of things. I'm actually gonna pull it up because it's pretty fun. But, I'm a big manifester, you're gonna see. I manifest everything. So, at this time when I was looking for my next relationship after my divorce, I had a list and I slept with it under my bed, and it was like my perfect man. And who I was in the relationship with, he filled almost all of these things, and he did. 'Cause so he really was what I was looking for at the time, but now that I kept growing and growing, it just kinda changed and I wanted more, and I'm so glad I found that out before I married him. Some of these things on this list, the first time I said, oh gosh, I might need to get my glasses out. Okay, can confidently make decisions without being a jerk about it, okay. Loves quality time and physical touch. Cannot be an annoying know-it-all. Has a daughter. That was one of the things he didn't have. He did not have kids, so he didn't have a daughter. Good relationship with their ex. He didn't have that one, I don't think. Can be a respected friend to my boys and not another dad. Okay, he did that really well. Must love my boys and be understanding of my gypsy life. Must not be needy and clingy. He must have his own hobbies. Okay, yeah. So I compare that to, it's funny because after the breakup, this journal, I was writing down the things that I want in my next relationship. So this was last summer. And last summer, I wrote, I want love and respect. That was number one, love and respect. I want to talk about everything, no holding back. I want someone to spoil me with love, attention, gifts, and travel. Doesn't let me pay for anything, a little older and established. I want someone busy during the week doing their own work and wants to wine and dine me on the weekends. That relationship evolves slowly over time, opposite of last time. Okay. I want someone who loves wine, golf, travel. He's on time. Boys love him, loves football, great sex, high sex drive, has his life together. So that is just so different for me than the things on my first list. And it just goes to show that like what I'm ready for right now is different than what I was ready for 5 years ago. Like I needed to go through this growth season and he allowed a secure place for me to do that until I was grown enough that I didn't need him anymore and I could fully take good care of myself in the city, that my boys were graduated, they were off into the world. I really didn't need him anymore, even though I would have stayed with him till, you know, for a long time because I loved him so much. But I grew so much that what was best for me next was just not who he could be, not who he was. And I'm grateful for that experience. And I am grateful for the growth for sure. So I want to leave you with a little homework. This is something that I do. I do it in a Google document. That's kind of my journal. And I just hope and pray nobody ever finds my passwords. But you can write it down in a journal or something, but make a list of all the people that you want to forgive. Okay. And it's not just people, but start with people because that's usually what comes to the top of your mind. Also make a list of the situations, things that might not be a person, but something like I want to forgive who I was when I didn't like who I was and I didn't make good decisions. You can write stuff even about yourself because we have to forgive ourselves as well. I am constantly needing to forgive myself for um, that season in my life many years ago when I didn't know who I was and I didn't make the great choices because I was just living in this emotional chaos. And now that I know who I am and I know where I'm going, only want the best energy. And I do truly believe I've learned so much from my failures to grow that they are not failures at all. They're just part of my story. But I want you to make your list on the paper of all the people, situations, and then next to it, write, um, I'm willing to release you. I'm willing to let this go. And you just keep writing those two sentences until you feel it in your heart and you'll know when to stop. Just trust me. But and then go on to the next item, the next person. And I'm willing to release you. I'm willing to let this go and keep writing. And for me, just writing things out just feels like bad energy just kind of leaves with the pen. Let let the things go. Just I promise you, the forgiveness, the part that you just need to remember is you're doing it for you. It has nothing to do with them. Yeah, they don't deserve your forgiveness. Yeah, they don't, probably. Okay. But it has nothing to do with them. It's about what you're holding and taking the time to just let it go, to leave it behind so that you're lighter and there's more energy. There's more room for the good stuff. When you're full of the bad stuff, the thoughts, the energy, the actions, you don't have room for the good. So you got to release all the bad so that there's space for all the good to come because we're going to be manifesting. You're going to have a lot of good stuff coming. You just don't even know what you got in for you guys. But I am so glad that you're here with me. This was a heavy one. Thank you for staying a little longer. Yeah, growth is messy and it does not look good in the middle of it. But you guys, we're here together and we can own whatever we've been through. And really forgive. And I didn't tell you that I did forgive my ex. I did send him a text message and it took months for me to do it. And I was just like, I just want to let this go. I hope that you can live a more honest life with whoever you're with next. But yeah, forgive ya, forget ya. Okay, thanks for laying low with me today. Go to laylowpod.com and you can anonymously submit a message to me and I want to read it on the air and I want to answer it with an experience that I've been through. So you just never know what you're going to find out about me as we answer these questions. So talk to you soon. Thank you for laying low.